Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Excited for today's episode. He's the founder and CEO of heyLIME. And what they do is they help remote and hybrid teams stay engaged, connected, and create an intentional company with great culture. Very excited to be rocking out today with James Simmons. Hey, James, you ready to rock?
Hey, Tim, absolutely. Let's do it.
Perfect. So we always start off here on a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
Sure. Well, it started from a place of fear and frustration, right? I think we had a business that was at a point of we thought we'd hit on an answer, but we had no cash, right? I think a lot of us have probably been there.
Yep.
And and so my co-founder, who's also my brother, and I, we sat down and we're like, well, how do we what the hell do we do now, right? I mean, we tried fundraising, but we didn't have the numbers for it. And um, and so keeping that business, we actually went and started another business kind of on the side, right? It was going to be a side gig, doing services work, doing software development. That's what I do. That's kind of my background. And and so we started doing outsourced software development for other tech startups that we'd met along the way, right? Help them out. Basically we would lend a little bit of our expertise, outsource some of the actual work to nearshore and offshore folks. And although that's not our core business, we've actually scaled that thing up. So we started this a year ago. It's got 50 employees. That's actually what's paying the bills now. So we've got the thing that we're very passionate about. It's the startup we're building. It's probably what we'll spend a lot of time today talking about. And this is the thing that I'm really working on. But along the way, necessity breeds invention, right? And we spun out this other business that has actually allowed him to quit his job and focus on what we're doing full time and take it from there. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Right on. Well, okay. So now with the good note, sometimes there's some things that we don't go as planned along the way as well. And I'm
Yep.
wondering, like, through that journey, uh, was there some big mistakes, some big things that didn't go well that you recovered from, and how did you recover?
Yeah. I mean, some of it is tied into the first part of that story, right? I think we started this business, heyLIME, during the COVID pandemic, early lockdowns, and we initially had this idea of building actually a gaming platform. It was games over Zoom. Um, kind of came out of this idea that we were stuck in lockdown. We were sitting on Zoom calls 10 hours a day. Um, and so we thought, well, hey, let's build Cards Against Humanity. And it was actually going to be a fun side project, but let's build Cards Against Humanity um, over Zoom. We built it. It got a lot of initial interest and attention, um, enough so that we did a friends and family round and then raised an angel round of funding, and kind of started taking off. We hit about 50,000 users pretty quick. Spent a lot of money pretty quick, got to where we were spending a lot of money. I mean, relatively speaking, right,
Yeah.
for us, and then hit a point where we realized, well, crap, we're pretty much out of money and nobody is paying for this thing. What the heck do we do now? Um, because we'd hired folks, we had bills, we'd invested our own money into this thing. And it was pretty much at the end. And I would say that, we actually pretty much shut the thing down, and had decided, this was it. And then, I think as we talked about a little bit in the beginning here, out of that came a pivot into the company we are now. And so I would actually say that our first business, that the predecessor to heyLIME, which was a different company, different name, essentially did fail. And we stopped, took a step back, looked at the data, looked at what was working, what wasn't, what IP did we have, and we found this. We found that the people who were using this platform were teams that wanted to stay connected, that wanted to, we found who were our users, where our product was the need to have, not the want to have. And then how do we go get more cash flow to give this thing a try, because we'd
Yeah.
raised money and we burned through it all. So going and raising more money wasn't an option right away. Um, And now we're kind of on round two, and round two is looking to be a much different experience than round one.
Wow. So can we dig into that a little bit more? So now you
Sure.
already went and got some some funding, and now you're going to get more funding. Did you go to the same people? Did you go to different people? Like, I'm sure that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that'll be in that boat at some point. Because as we know, sometimes you don't really know what you don't know until you try something, and
Yeah.
then you realize that you got something, right?
Yep. So I do think that early stage investors have some tolerance for that, right? I mean, they do have some tolerance for the idea that we're still figuring it out, and they are somewhat investing in you as a person, right? Are you willing to stick through it? Are you gonna? And that's what we've seen. And that's why, when we demonstrated that we were willing to dig deep and keep going, that we were ready to go find other sources or create other sources of cash flow that don't fund the entire business, but are actually funding a decent chunk of the business. That we were willing and ready to go look at our data, to look at our customers, to talk to our users, and come out of it and say, okay, we think we've got something. Now they're not quite ready to go and write a huge check, but they've been willing to keep things going, give us a shot, and say, okay, if we can do X, Y, Z, then let's talk. And that's really where we've been. And I think where we are starting to see the traction to where I'm hopeful, confident, planning that later this year we'll be back out and having another round of conversations with these folks and hopefully a couple others.
Wow, that's awesome. I love this story. I love this story because I know that it was probably quite difficult, like getting it out of your head and going like, oh, I gotta go talk to these guys again. Like, but
It's
you're right. People invest in people, right?
People invest in people, and if there's one thing I've learned in this game, because I've worked in the startup space for a long time, and I've advised other startup founders, and I've been a CTO. It's kind of been my game up through now, in tech companies. But as you know, the guy or the girl, right, as the founder, the I think the biggest difference is the mental game, right? When it's your business, um, of course the business is hard, right? It's never easy to build a company. It's never easy to try and craft it. But yeah, the mental game I think is the most underlooked and under talked about thing in all this is just keeping yourself going. Finding that energy to say, well, that didn't work. And that thing that didn't work might have just been 10-12 hour days for 3 6 12 months of your life, and a big chunk of your own money or resources or sacrifices, and it's like, well, okay, that didn't work, what are we going to try now?
Yeah.
And then maybe getting in front of people, partners, investors, employees, and saying, okay, that didn't work, what's next? With enough energy to convince them to go try it again. And it's like, man, this is rough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's like the mental game is like there's opposites too. Like, it's like a roller coaster where sometimes you're super overconfident because you're really close to it, and sometimes you're really hard on yourself because you're too close to it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like there's no middle ground there where you need to be,
There's no
right?
middle ground. There's no middle ground. And I do feel like, if there's one area where I constantly will look at myself and say, man, dude, have I got what it takes for this? It's like, am I crazy enough? And maybe I am now. Maybe I've been doing it long enough to say I am, but it's like, for a long time, I worked for these different, CEOs and founders, and every one of them has something going on, right? There's some quirk of personality. They're kind of crazy, or they've got a massive ego, or they work nonstop or something, but there's always something going on. And I've kind of come to realize it's that there has to be that little bit of insanity to just be willing to keep going at it. um, no, I don't think that necessarily means that you have to kill yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to be an insanely hard, worker. You can build a perfectly good business not doing that. But you have to have a certain willingness to roll with the punches um and just thrive on that kind of, I don't know, craziness and uncertainty.
You bet. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, if I can make an analogy with music, with writing songs, like who's got the like really my message is worth telling everybody in the world about, and that you have to listen to me say my message. Like you have to have a bit of narcissism in order to be even do that, right? And a business is a creation too. You're literally creating something and telling the world you need this, right?
Yeah, you don't know it yet, but you need this thing,
Yep.
and you
Yep.
will pay me for it, right?
And they don't at first, but eventually.
Yeah, yeah,
Right
right,
on.
exactly.
That's awesome. Well, I love that conversation. That's really cool. So now you've been working from home for a little while. So tell me about your jam room.
Yeah, so I'm in a new one right now. Actually, we just moved. So I'm in the thick of getting it set up, and I'm a little bit obsessive about setting it up right. Because I'm a huge believer, like you've got to have your space, right? You've got to have a space set up where you can work, where you can be creative, where you can just think. So I don't know, man. What do you want to know? Like, what do you want to get into here?
Well, you say set
Yeah.
it up right. What does that mean? What are the components that need to be there?
Yeah. So for me, one of the most important is actually the lighting. Um, Part of, I will spend in this room I'm in now, I'm going to be spending 10, 12, 14 hours a day, maybe in here. Hopefully not too often, but sometimes. And so I've tricked out all the lighting, right? So everything in here is controlled, it's on timers, it's voice controlled, all that stuff. I do tend to I'll get headaches if the lighting isn't right. So everything, I mean, these shutters behind me will actually like open and close based on how much sunlight's coming in. The monitors are all like low blue light, the lights will adjust. Um, but for me, I used to get migraines like five, 5 to 8 days a month. And
Wow.
now that's like once every 2 or 3 months. And so that was a big difference. Um, Outside of that, it's just making sure that the tech is all set up and working, right? Um, no, it's weird. We had some little glitch when you and I connected today, but for the most part, it's I click a button and I'm on a Zoom, Teams, Google Meet call, like whatever it is I need to be on, and it works. And the video is always good, and the audio is going to be good and working. So that is set up right. Um, I have different earbuds that if I need to be on earbuds, not on a speakerphone, that are paired to my phone versus my computer, so I'm never fighting with like which device is
Oh
paired.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like it's stupid, but it's like all the minutes of the day that you spend fighting with your environment, or any friction that it causes, adds up. And so to me, it's making sure that it's healthy, it's functional, and then after that, that it just is it. I don't know, that you just feel creative, right? That it's set up right. I think that I got into a little bit of an argument with a friend of mine who's he's working from home, and it's not that he doesn't have space, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you have the space you have, so you got to make it work. But just had set up like a desk in a corner. And again, it'd be one thing if that's all the space you have available, it's all you. But it wasn't that. He was just like, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like I'm gonna have a background image on. No one's ever gonna see. I have I have good headphones, so the noise cancellation is great, and it just doesn't matter. I'm like, no, man, I promise you, I don't know how to quantify it, but you're losing productivity every hour of your day, I mean, this is what we do, right? Like I'm sitting in this chair talking to people on this setup, probably 6, 7 hours out of my day, I'm talking to people. And then another, 4, 5, 6, like sitting here working. I mean, I'm here more than I'm in my bed. Like,
Yeah. And what's really sad about that is that your friend probably won't realize it until he changes it. And then he'll go, "Oh man, why did I not do that earlier?"
it's true, but it's true. All this stuff matters. Actually, I haven't set it up yet because we just moved. But for Christmas, my wife got like I'm all into like smart home stuff, and I just recently, like I for a long time, I was like that stuff is all kind of dumb, and what got me into it was we had a baby, and so being able to tell like to be able to tell the house, turn on noise machines, turn on noise machines, like set lights to dim, or be able to hit switches and lights would come on like a very dim color to not wake the baby. Like all that kind of stuff made a difference. But yeah, she actually she got like a scent diffuser that would actually like tie into a whole smart system.
Wow.
Um, and release like different scents based on all that. And I'm like, okay, why not? Like, I'll give that a try too, and see if see if you can get all five senses going, and tie it all together. Because I feel like over the last year, and this is actually tied into the work we're doing actually. So it's not coincidental. When I step back and think about it, the research we've been doing into remote work productivity, that the mental health piece really does play into it, that wellness and focus and meditation, and again all things where I used to a couple years ago I would have said, that's BS, like it doesn't matter, and more I'm finding like if I can take a couple minutes to center myself and find focus and peace and all that, then like my next 2 or 3 hours are going to be way more productive.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed the same thing too. And it is funny how you resist it for so long. I don't even understand why I've resisted it for so long, but after a while you start to realize that yeah, these things do work.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's weird, right? Like I think we all have a little bit of that. I don't know what it is. Like it's just I don't know
It's
if we all just think it's BS or
it's got to be
it's
programming is my guess. You see on TV that they're all the kooky people that, nothing ever works, but it
yeah.
works. It really
Well, it
does.
does. And you don't need to go overboard, though. Maybe if you did, it would work even better. I don't know. I mean, but I found and have worked on things. It's like it truly is. You take even something like this. I mean, like what we're doing now. You take 2 minutes before it to just pause and think, or pause and actually clear your head, and it makes a big difference. It really does.
Yeah, it sure
Um,
does.
and it's not that big of an investment. So yeah, if there's one thing I would share with folks, it's tear down any barrier you have to that sort of thing, because it does give you more time in the day. It's one of the few things that can give you more time in the day.
Yeah. And I mean, I've now, I think I've interviewed probably around 250 people so far on this podcast since I started it. And it's an overwhelming majority of people that are in business for themselves, that take time for themselves and do some sort of meditation practice. It's amazing.
Hi, it's Mark Mawhinney from Natural Born Coaches, and I want to give two very big thumbs up to Tim Melanson and his Creative Crew Agency. I have been using them for a long time, and I am 100% happy. They get the job done right, they're fast, and they let me focus on my business. I don't have to worry about anything. So again, I want to give them two very big thumbs up. I have no problem recommending them. I don't give testimonials for everyone because my name is attached to it, but I gladly do so for Tim and the Creative Crew Agency. So use them, you won't regret it, and good luck.
And that can't be a coincidence, right?
No, it can't. It can't. I think I'm all for it, and I appreciate that. That's great to hear. That's great to get kind of further validation that this stuff, it matters, right? And it is that part of it is when we're working kind of for ourselves, with ourselves, there is no one telling you what you're doing is right. There's no one, right? There's no one saying you're on the right course. I don't have like my manager one-on-one every week with someone who's saying, do this, and better yourself by doing that. And so, a lot of time it is like you need to spend time. One, it's great to get validation from other peers who are doing the same kind of work, but also like the person you need to check in with is yourself, right? Like that is your boss. So, spend time talking to them.
Yeah, you've got to keep your energy up. I mean, we talked about that a little bit earlier. There's a lot of reasons why, when you're working with your head down, someone gives you a list of things to do, you just got to get it done. But when you're working for yourself, you are creating that list. And, you've got to be in the right energy all the time in order to be able to do that. And if you're not, then you've got to sort of recognize that and give yourself a little bit of permission to go take a break, right? Until you are.
Yep. For sure.
Right on. So now let's talk a little bit about the band. So now, I mean, you've been in business for a while now. So tell me a little bit about your delegation process. Like, who do you look for, and how, and what do you delegate?
I mean, as much as I can. That's the easy answer. Now within heyLIME, I mean, my brother Justin's my co-founder, so he and I share a lot of the work. He's really responsible for everything around building the product. He's our CTO. I'm around kind of defining it and selling it. So that's how we break apart the work within our company. But in terms of, kind of a step back from that, just with this business and other businesses that I've kind of worked on and built up over the last several years, I've just become such a huge believer in outsource anything and everything you can. So I do work outside of this, and again, a lot of paying the bills while getting this thing off the ground as a startup advisor, fractional executive. Kind of have been doing that for a while now, and with that, I've come to believe quite a bit in the idea that you really can get a lot of value out of people with just a few hours of their expertise. Again, I sell that, so of course I would hope I believe in it, but so we've adopted that mindset in a lot of what we do, where I want to go and get a fractional CMO that I'm getting for a couple hours a week, and then I'll go either hire or contract a full-time marketing analyst, right? So get, rather than, and it's all kind of depends on your business and what you can afford and all that, but so I'm making up numbers here, but I've now adopted a mindset where if I've got a $75,000 budget for a position, I would rather hire a junior kind of entry level, but hardworking type person and pay them 40 grand, and then take the other 35 grand and go find the best consultant I can and get them for a couple hours a week and pay them, $3 grand a month to get 3 hours a week. For them to tell that person what to do. And I've found that model has been really successful because for the really hard questions, the places where you really need expertise, you really just need to break through a wall, or you really need like that one introduction, or it's like you get the benefits of that, but then you also have just a hard worker who's giving you 40 hours a week churning out stuff. Instead of, I'm not trying to knock any mid-career folks by any stretch, but instead of kind of a mid-career person who is really, really stretching sometimes to try and figure out this esoteric piece of how Google optimization works, or how do you get a meeting with this one person somewhere, or how to solve this problem, and they're spending a ton of time doing this hard thing, but then they're also spending a lot of time doing work that is really easy for them, right? And so again, that's kind of one of the tricks that I found that's been a real force multiplier for us. Um,
Wow, absolutely brilliant. Like really, really, like I'm so glad you mentioned that. That is part of like actually even my business model. Like myself and my wife we build websites and do marketing as well. We both got 20 plus years of experience, and that's how we pitch it is we're like, listen, you can go and hire somebody who's a mid-level or a junior, and they're going to struggle to find time and to find solutions. Or we can come on board and teach your team what to do. Like we can literally shortcut that whole thing, work for you for a fraction of the amount of time, because that's just it, right? I mean, like when you're looking to hire somebody, if you are you always want the best person, but you probably can't afford them full time. you
nope.
know so like a lot of people will just give up on that and just go, well, I'm just going to struggle away.
Yeah,
And we
settle.
found that like some of our friends that have businesses that just are still struggling away with their junior person, trying to get them to the point where they could have just hired somebody on a part-time basis. And now the way that things work with work at home jobs and all that stuff, like you can do that. You don't have to hire a full-time senior person. You can hire a
Nope.
part-time one.
And for a lot of smaller businesses, it's like you don't need that senior person full time, right? You don't need their expertise full time. And honestly, you probably don't have enough challenging work to keep them engaged full time. Like even if you found a way to afford them, they're probably bored. And it's questionable whether or not you could retain them
Oh,
unless you gave them a huge percentage of your company and killed yourself to afford them. And then for 35 hours out of the week, you're overpaying for the work you're getting because they're filling out a spreadsheet or they're chunking away in your CRM or they're writing low level software. I mean, whatever it is that person does, whatever the thing is, they're underutilized. And
oh yeah.
yeah, man, I think that's such a force multiplier. The other place, for anyone who's going down the fundraising route, that's also a game changer for fundraising. Because when you can say, this person is this is who I've got as my head of marketing,
Oh, love it.
right?
Wow. Yeah.
This is who my software arc, these are the creds of my software architect or my sales guy, or in my case, and part of it is, he's also kind of a good friend of mine who worked together for it. You know, my CFO has done multiple 8 and 9 figure exits and has built these companies from the ground up. And it's a very true statement. And he's often on the call when I'm raising funds, but he's spending 2 hours a week with us,
Wow. Brilliant.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
it really kind of, it lets you, but then with that, I mean, we're represented by one of the best startup law firms because he knows all the partners over there.
Hmm.
And similarly, because he knows them, they said, yeah, we're basically going to charge you 1 hour of our time and then everything else is done by the paralegal. I mean, it's like you start benefiting from their networks and it all kind of comes together in a really cool way.
I love it. I love it. And it's just a matter of really getting through your own resistance to that, because like you say, a lot of the things that this person's going to be spending time on sorry. A lot of the benefits that you get from this person is just about who they are and what they know and who they know. And that's not an hourly thing. You're not going to be like, how many hours did you spend? This is just it's just the person on your payroll that you just like. Actually, that's another question. How do you decide how much to pay them?
We just talk about it. I mean, most of them and most of these folks, it's they have some consulting rate, which is typically it's typically the kind of thing where they're on a retainer. And if I actually boiled it down to hours, I would, I'd say, oh crap, that's more than I can afford. But I know that, if if we did a funding round next week and I needed to go and talk to Bill and we need to do a ton of work to get diligence ready and all that he's not going to go and send me a bill, for 50 grand. It would be, no, we get this taken care of. And they've all got a little bit of equity in the company and all that. So we've sort of got this fractional executive concept down. Right. So it's sort of, you got to figure out how to scale it, right? I mean, if it's truly sort of an executive person, then they're on a retainer, pay them a couple grand a month, give them a small piece of equity so that they're really motivated for the big stuff. If it's more of just a true expert, then it's just, they're charging anywhere from 150 to 200 to $300 an hour, but I'm only needing them for a few hours here or there.
Love it. Love it. Going through the whole thing right now. So that's awesome.
Right. Yeah, no. So, but do that, and then everything else, it's like, it's truly, can we be paying, $10 an hour for development work, overseas but it's well architected, it's designed right, all that stuff, right? And that's been our model, and that's where, our blended rate for work is probably still lower than well, it's and I know this. I mean, I know the development side because that's what I've done, software development, and I know that on the whole, we're spending a lot less for software development than most companies would. But I feel like the quality of the work we're getting is competitive to anything.
Well, and then that speaks really to the leaders in those roles as well. Like you can hire out cheaper labor if the right leader's in place. Yeah. Because the leader knows what to look for. They know they just know whether they're getting ripped off or not.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't,
yeah, their BS meter is finely tuned, right?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So that's another big benefit is now if you have the right leaders in place, I mean, your laborers you can hire just about anybody. They'll be able to lead anybody, really.
Yep.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, it's time for your guest solo. So I want to know more about your business. So tell me about it.
Well, so heyLIME is a platform for remote teams to stay connected and have fun. So the idea behind it, and again, it started out its life as in a prior iteration as a gaming platform. It still has a lot to do with games and gamification, but it's not all about that anymore. But the whole idea is, if you really peel back the idea, it's that we build relationships through a series of casual social interactions. Right? You have to have emotional engagement with people to build a relationship. If you just get on a Zoom call, have an agenda, do your agenda, and get off, you don't have a relationship with that person. You actually have to spark emotions. It doesn't actually matter, turns out, whether that's a positive or a negative emotion. Either one will build a relationship. It's not great if they're all negative, right? Like, so we've chosen not to explore that side of things. And so, that's sort of the science. The practical nature of it is heyLIME is a platform that you get onto either the first few minutes of a regular call and you do a little activity together. It can be a little game, it can be a group stretch, it can be a group breathing exercise or a 2-minute meditation to help focus for the call you're about to do. You can also get into a longer session. So if you're saying we're just focusing on spending time together, getting to know each other, and do like a 30-minute kind of dedicated thing where it's not just part of another meeting, but it is the meeting. And for those, we've got, get to know each other, team building activities. We've got all your kind of popular party games, essentially, riffs on Cards Against Humanity, Taboo, Heads Up, Uno, all that. And then kind of the full blown is we can host full virtual happy hours, cooking competitions, musical performances, comedy, magic shows, all that. And it all kind of wraps it together in a platform that lets you measure what you're doing. So it looks at who's participating, who's not participating. It's like, oh, Tim has not participated in the last 3 months. What's going on? Is Tim maybe a flight risk? Are you just not doing things for Tim? Or James only participates when you do things focused on, wellness and focus, and he absolutely seems to hate competition. So, if you want to get James to be involved, have a better mix, maybe he's just not competitive by nature. So mix the type of thing. So it's really around, trying to be intentional about creating those moments. And then we don't build the friendships. The idea is that you create the moments, and then the relationships and the friendships and the culture kind of grow out of that. So we help plant the seeds and then see what grows.
Wow, James, this is a really great idea. Well
Thank you.
done. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'd like to try it myself, actually.
Absolutely. No, let's do it sometime. Like let's just get on, and we'll invite you to we have open nights where we just hang out, have a little
Really?
fun. And
Okay, well,
totally.
can anybody join on any of this? Can we share that with the
Yeah,
audience?
absolutely. So heyLIME.com, and there is a link on there to join up and join kind of our come check it out. There's also free trials in that. And then one of the things that I would definitely invite folks onto is, if you go in there, we offer businesses of any size. It does not matter. We actually feel like you can do this if you're working with people, and it's any group, any size number of people. If you're working with people, this can help. It can be a team of employees. It can be a team of subcontractors that you work with, right? You probably don't know them, but they're crucial to your business's success. It can be with customers. But we have a program that we actually take you through, that's a 90-day onboarding pilot that helps kind of assess where are you today, and then kind of walks you through, like, what do you do to start building friendships and relationships with the people that you're working with and connecting with online every day.
Wow. So who would, like, you say it's for just about anybody, like what is the typical client that you're looking for?
So the typical client is someone who's managing a small team of people. So, and again, that can be a team lead at Amazon who's coming in, or that can be a small business owner who's saying, I've got this team of people that I maybe got one or two employees and a couple other contractors. None of us have ever met each other in person.
Yeah.
We barely know each other. One of the things I hear a lot from people is that they feel like their relationships, their work relationships, are really transactional now. Like, I don't actually know this person. I just feel like I'm trading time for money. and I don't know, I don't feel or know whether they care at all about the success of my project, my business, the team. And we're sort of saying, can we tackle that, right? I mean, if you care about the person, you care about the team, right? I mean, that's sort of kind of a lot of research, right? One of the most commonly kind of cited ones is someone went back and interviewed Medal of Honor winners, or recipients, not winners, recipients throughout history, and it's rarely about country and honor and all that. It's about your fellow soldier, right? It's, if you have the relationship with the person you're working with, you're going to work harder, you're going to give it more. And while most of us are not out on a battlefield every day, it sometimes feels like it. And so how do we build those relationships with the people that we're working with every day?
Yeah. Amazing. And you know what? I mean, I've been part of companies before I was self-employed, big companies, and they all have team building events. Like, it's just one of those things. And then since I've been self-employed, it's so funny that didn't really translate to the teams that I'm working with. And I'm going to make a change in that because because it is one of those things where you don't think of it, but you guys have figured out a situation where you can do team building events with people that are remote to you, which is, I've never heard of that before. Normally you think, oh, we have to go out for happy hour and talk to each other, but this is a fantastic idea. Well done. I love it.
We'll bring the happy hour to you.
Yep. And so how do we find out again more about this?
Yeah, so it's heyLIME.com, or heyLIME team on all the different social channels.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for rocking out with me today, James. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. It's been great.
Right on. To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.